so just a week or so back, I posted up my impulse shopping, some of the goodies that I bought at the recent Bedford tabletop event. And one of the, well, one of the must-haves that I saw was that figure that I got from XWC Miniatures, who put out a superb range of Mythos miniatures, and under the name of Moonbeast Games are also starting to produce some excellent Cthulhu Mythos scenarios as well. Anyway, I bought that certain figure from them. Now comes the job of assembling and painting it. But here's the question. What colour do you use for something out of space? If only Mr. Lovecraft had given us a clue or two. Yes, today on Dragon's Teeth, we're painting up my Starspawn of Cthulhu. Hi folks, thanks for joining me today. So yes, I saw that figure, as you'll know if you watched that previous upload, and I had to get it. Marvellous figure, as are all the others from XWC Miniatures. As I said before, they're really taking a lot of care to get all the detail right on those Lovecraftian nasties. Of course, I'll put the link into their site below, and just a reminder again that you can see them. You can buy these figures in person yourself at the upcoming Innsmouth Literary Festival, 27th of September in Bedford, where those chaps are promising to also bring their new figure of Dagon, which is even larger than the Starspawn apparently. So looking forward to that. But we're starting with the slightly smaller, though still imposing Starspawn today. Going to take you through the assembly and then also the first stages of painting, basically getting a nice undercoat on, for which I'm going to be trying a different technique, or for me, a new technique at least. So we'll see how that goes. Now, this figure, as I said, I didn't really go out expecting to buy a Starspawn of Cthulhu. When do you? But it was just one of those figures that instantly popped out, and I thought, right, yeah, I don't know specifically what I'm going to use that for at the moment, but I need to get it. Of course, now I've got it, I'm thinking of lots of different things. I'm thinking of We Want the Gold, my fantasy skirmish game, which, by the way, once I've got the fantasy version done, I'm also going to be producing a sort of pulp or mythos modern horror version of that as well. So that's a little ways down the line, but it's in the pipeline. The other thing was I'm going to be doing an Innsmouth build. I'm just waiting on certain items, certain mysterious items to arrive in the post, and I'm going to be putting together a lot of Innsmouth buildings and some scatter terrain and other things. Again, that's initially going to be for a participation game at the ILF. So no doubt the Starspawn will be making an appearance in that at some point. So there's at least 2 or 3 things I can use it for. That's good enough for me. Anyway, let's get on with the build and see how it went. Starting off with our assembly then, and as you can see, this is quite a substantial beast. It comes in 7 parts. We've got the torso and 1 arm. We've got a pair of legs, the other arm, the head, and rather magnificent wings. So I'm just using super glue. I always know I put way too much super glue on and then I have to hold the piece in place for ages. I really need to use a bit less super glue. But the whole thing goes together very easily. It's just a question of lining everything up and holding it in. So there's the legs, and I've fixed it to the base just to make it easier to handle. The other arm goes on. This is the sort of backwards reaching arm. And then it's the head. There's like a pin that fits into a hole on the top there. Again, a very easy fit. And finally, the wings. Again, we've got a peg and the wings fit into the holes on the back. I had to hold this one in place for quite a while. I guess the angle of it, you know, I had to keep that still for a bit. But there we go. That's the finished assembled creature. Now, as I mentioned, it is a very good fit. But I had one or two slight gaps that I thought I'd just put some filler in. And also the main reason I did this was just to reinforce the joints, particularly for the wings. So this is just using standard model filler and then just evening it out a little bit. And as I said, especially adding it to those wing joints, it just strikes me that's probably the most fragile part, especially if someone comes along and picks it up by the wing. I wouldn't be happy. For the undercoat, I'm using 3 colours. These are my usual cheap spray cans. I've got a black, which is going to be the lower part. I've got a lime green, which is going to be the middle. And I've got a matte white, which is going to be the upper part. So I said, yeah, a new method for me. I'm trying this idea of zenithal, where the figure is lighter at the top, where the light would naturally fall on it, and then darkens as we go down. So it's just a case of spraying each of these on in turn, and I'm starting with the black for the base and the legs. Here's our lime green for the upper body and the wings. That really is lurid, isn't it? I do like that. That's a nice shade. I did find with this can in particular, it was very messy. As you can see, a lot of it is spattered over the base. So I had to go back and respray parts of that. In fact, all of these spray cans are a little bit messy, but the green in particular. And to finish, it's the white for the upper surfaces. So I was trying to get a sort of light coat of white on. Again, not a lot of control with these cans. And as you can see, it's spattering quite a lot as well. But it does the job. It gets a nice effect, I think. And hopefully when I add the speed paints on, we'll get that light to dark effect as we go down the model. And I'm thinking now when I come to put the top coats on, I'm definitely looking at using the airbrush, particularly given the size of the figure. And again, I want to get that nice blend of hues, of unearthly hues. I really do like these wings as well. I think they look great. So that's our assembly and undercoating done. And I have to say, even with just that and a little bit of moody lighting, this is already looking good. So yeah, I'm looking forward to delving into the weird colour palette and finishing this one off. I imagine it's going to be some speed paints, some airbrushing, some highlighting, maybe a wash if it's required. And then I'm not sure how I'll finish the base yet. I might put some sort of ground or scatter on there. I may just leave it dark. I don't know yet. We'll see. But yes, first step done. All good. Alright, so that's part 1 over and done with. Easy assembly. A little bit messy in places with the spray, but you know, you're using cheap aerosol cans, you've got to expect that. Maybe I should have used the airbrush for that. I'm certainly looking at bringing the airbrush out for the next stage, which of course is painting and completing the figure. So in terms of colour scheme, I don't know, the colour out of space. I guess green is an obvious thing. I think there's probably going to be some purples in as well. Who knows what else. I'm currently just looking around to see what interesting speed paints I can find, what interesting colours. So if you have any tips for Cthulhu-esque colours, particularly from army painters or those kind of manufacturers, please do let me know. I'd be happy to hear. And as always, I'm happy to hear all your comments, questions and suggestions. And as always, if you haven't already, please do like, share and subscribe to the channel. Okay, that's it for this time. Keep an eye out for the forthcoming Innsmouth build and keep an eye out for part 2 of our painting Star Spawn of Cthulhu. Take care.